What's up? What's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we take a look back at the early works of seasoned comedians before they were seasoned with this week's guest, William Conway. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, certified French humorist and host of Done Way Past Funny. Thank you for joining us as we continue our interview with William Conway. Enjoy. Yes, that is one of the things I try to explain to young comedians. You know, you don't want to get your audience, you don't want to say something that's going to get your audience thinking about something other than what you are doing on stage.
Right, 100%.
And one of the things I explained to them is like, if you, like there was one guy who was doing, talking about Jesus, and he goes, and he was crucified at 34. I said, you realize, and I told him afterwards, he goes, oh, it's not that important. I say, it is that important, because most people know that Jesus
was 33.
Was 33, right?
Yeah.
No, 33. Everybody knows that. So now they want to know. They're wondering, why'd you say
why do
34?
You think it's 34?
Right. And you don't make a joke out of it. So it was something that it wasn't like a joke. So now they're thinking you're stupid, and they want to know why do you know. So they stopped listening to your set.
Yeah.
And
they just want to know who lied to you.
Right. Yeah.
Who lied to you, dog?
Yeah. Who hurt you? Who touched you?
Yeah.
No. So. No, and why did he need an extra year? Why did they? What did you think he did with that extra year that everybody else think he didn't have? So so I explained to young comedians, if you're going to quote history, if you're not spoofing it, get it right. Even if you're, you know what I'm saying, even if you like I jokingly talk about how people don't know that it's people think that James Earl Jones shot Martin Luther King. No, but it's because it's James Earl Ray,
right.
and I'll go. I'll say, and there's so many people, young people today, who still think that James Earl Jones shot Martin Luther King, and some people don't correct me, and and I will sometimes I go back and let them know no, it was James Earl Ray, but otherwise I leave it standing, let them idiots thinking it's James Earl Jones. It's like but Darth Vader killed Martin Luther King?
Yeah, he's a dark person. He does terrible things.
Yeah.
One of the bits that I don't do from that anymore is about my mom and stuff, which kind of sucks because that was a solid opener that I had for a while, the proud moments thing. And matter of fact, I even had a T-shirt.
That's kind of cute when you go like, I'm not full of proud moments.
Yeah, that was actually one of my first T-shirts. It said "I'm not full" on the front, and on the back it said "of proud moments." And excuse me, sorry about that. But yeah, I don't do that anymore. Ever since and especially since mom and dad have both passed now, like I don't know. It doesn't feel like the way to get into my set anymore.
How long have they been deceased?
So my dad died on my birthday in 2020, and then my mom passed in September of 2021 of COVID.
Okay, so your father died on your birthday?
Yeah.
Now that wasn't your fault. Like he choked on your cake or something.
No, like
he was like rushing. No, he was rushing because he was late to your party, and it was a car crash.
No, it was just his opportunity to like give me one last, before leaving. Like, hey, did you plan on enjoying any of your birthdays for the rest of your life? Well, never mind that, son. You can forget that horse shit.
Okay. So all right. So and your mother died from COVID, you said?
Yeah, she, and under some sketchy circumstances, I might say. But yeah, my mother died of COVID. Like she went into.
You mean like COVID killed her, but he made it like an accident?
No. So she went to the hospital for a urinary tract infection, and they gave now what I'm saying is third party. This is what my sister told me. My sister was there with her, but so she went to the emergency room for a urinary tract infection, and they tested her for COVID, which was pretty standard procedure at that point. and she tested negative. And they asked her a whole bunch of questions about whether or not she'd been vaccinated. She said no. She said that she had no intentions of being vaccinated. Da 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 da. And then they decided that she needed to be tested a second time for COVID.
Now, wait a
And
minute. Is the da 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 da? Is that your sister saying she said it, or is that a quote from your mother? I'm just saying because that
right.
could be pertinent in like if there's ever a lawsuit,
Yeah.
who actually said the da 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 da.
I mean, pretty much my family is pretty. They probably don't even want me saying this right now. Like I don't care about saying it, but they probably wish I wouldn't say it because I think something very suspicious happened because um they said that they felt that if she hadn't been vaccinated, that she was enough at risk that she probably had COVID, and so they wanted to like retest her to make sure that she didn't have COVID. Okay. And
Okay.
so, but my sister said, and this is what flabbergasted me, but my sister said that when they came back with the second COVID test, that it was already open. And I was like, why did you even let them touch Ma with it then? You know what I mean? You should have said, hey, you need to get one that's open in here. Because they gave her a second test with the one that my sister says was open, and I saw her x-rays, like her x-rays from day one
Mm-hmm.
were, and her x-rays from like 4 days in were like the difference between those two were like you could definitely, like, I'm not saying that she didn't have damage and stuff like that in her first day x-rays, but it was definitely damage that would be reasonable for somebody who smoked for a really long time and stuff, you know what I mean? It's not like my mom lived the perfect life. But then her day four, I mean, is just rampant. You know what I mean? So, in my opinion, they're never going to convince me that they didn't give her COVID at the hospital. And I think that they did that because she said that she had no intentions of being vaccinated.
Okay. So the da 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 may not be a quote. It could just be like a paraphrase. I got you.
Right.
Okay. Now now so reason why I ask about your parents because I don't know how difficult they were to make laugh, and that's one of my standard questions is like who in your family was the hardest person to make laugh as a comedian?
I mean, really, I mean, my grandma, really. I mean, Grandma Conway was probably because she was so just flat, you know. She was, no, my grandma Leona was a different kind of lady. She was born in 1920, so she had like lived through the Depression and stuff like that. And, you know, she had a hard Midwestern farm life, you know,
So
and
when was the
then,
Dust Bowl? When was the Dust Bowl?
I think, yeah, but that was in a different area, really.
Oh, okay. But it
That
covered a lot
wasn't
of
really
ground.
Iowa.
The Dust
Yeah,
Bowl carried a lot of it covered like all of the Midwest. It seemed like.
but yeah, she spent her whole life in Iowa, pretty much.
Okay.
Matter of fact, even as an older lady, like she never, like she might go to the other side of Iowa to visit with some family or something like that. But she was not a well traveled woman.
So she was like, was she Emmitsburg through and through? Is
Oh
that what?
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you know, she was a very devout Catholic woman, and she went to daily mass, and she lived in walking distance away from the church. You know, and I mean, my grandmother was very proper, and like you know, like when I look back at my childhood and stuff, it's very clear like how bad things were because there was so much that we didn't tell grandma. Like grandma was not allowed to know a lot of different things. Matter of fact, and this is, dude, this is a super sad. My grandmother died not knowing that I was in prison. So, like when I would call home and talk to my parents, because my grandmother, she had a bunch of strokes on April Fool's Day one year, and so she lived with my parents after that. And
Mm-hmm.
so if I called home to talk to my folks, I would get to talk to grandma, but it was understood that I was not allowed to tell her where I was at. I think they told her that I was like away at school or some shit, which I guess in some ways is sort of true. Uh,
Well, did you get your? Because you
I was
got
learning.
right. You did get your GED in prison, right? or did you?
No, I got my dude. It's interesting. I got my GED like 6 months before I would have graduated, because I just stopped going to the classes and went and took the tests.
Oh, okay.
Because yeah, but I was a GED tutor when I was in prison. I was actually the one I would help inmates with their essay writing. So that but they don't do essay writing for the GED anymore. They quit doing that. I think I forget what year, but they quit doing essays now.
So, because my understanding is that you went to high school for 2 years, then.
Uh, no, I finished my junior year. I did finish my junior year, but I never finished the senior year. And
Okay,
I
three
ended
years.
up
Okay.
I went to four. No, hang on, two. I went to two different high schools my senior
Okay.
year, and I
Okay.
still didn't
Okay.
graduate. It was
Okay.
terrible. But I was also I took a year off between my junior and senior year because I was on the run. Um, I had had some I had some legal stuff happen, and then I had some crazy situation. This one, the summer that I was 17, and I ended up in a mental institution. And then from the mental institution, I got taken to a treatment center. And while I was at that treatment center, they told me that when I finished the program at the treatment center, that I wasn't going to get to go home, that I was going to have to go to placement somewhere. And so I just took off. Um, and I was in Sioux City, Iowa at the time at this treatment center for adolescents called Gordon Chemical. And I hitchhiked from Sioux City, Iowa to Anaheim, California. This is the summer of 1998. And I got off. I got out and got off. God, why can't I talk right now? Um, I got off a bus in North Hollywood, and my cousin picked me up because I think I got on a bus in like Anaheim, and then because she paid for me to get a bus ticket from Anaheim to North Hollywood, and I went and stayed with my cousin until I turned 18. And actually, it was supposed to be until I turned 18. But like this is like family that I'd never met her in person before. We'd only talked on the phone and stuff like that. And she was one of the this back in the day, back in the day, you had phone numbers in your head
Right.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I actually knew her number by heart. So when I ran from the facility, I went to a payphone and I called her collect. And I was like, hey, if I make my way to California, will you give me a place to stay? And she was like, what's going on? I was like, well, I just ran from this place because they told me that I'm going to have to go to placement. So I need somewhere to go. And she was like, absolutely. If you need somewhere to go, I got you. And she was like, how are you going to get here? And I was like, just let me worry about it. And, and, and I did, I rode with truckers. Like that night I hung out because it was like later on in the day when I left the facility. And
Right.
so by the time I got to a truck stop, like everybody was already kind of bedding down for the day or whatever. And so I decided to sleep under the overpass. And then when I started hearing trucks move out in the morning, I just went up and started asking people for rides. And
So, did this prepare you in any way for touring as a comic? No, I'm just
I
because touring
mean,
because touring as a comic because I don't as a comedian sometimes you wind up sleeping in places that, well, not me. I was very fortunate. I was always slept in hotels. I'm sorry, I'm spoiled. You know, I mean, I've been prepared to sleep in my car, but I've never had to. I've always slept in very nice hotels. Just
right.
saying. But in your case, did it prepare you, for comedy touring?
I mean, probably, and I mean, and prison helps too because like prison's not a comfortable place to sleep. Um,
Yeah, and you did that
I
for like 8 to 10 years. So
Yeah, like I was there for 9 years and 9 months, and when I first got out of prison, I went to I had an NA sponsor at the time, and him and his wife gave me a spare room that they had, and they had a super nice bed, super soft bed, and it took me over a week to be able to fall asleep on that thing. I could not sleep on the bed because it was too comfortable. I literally would take the comforter and sleep on the floor. Like his wife saw me one morning. It was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I can't sleep on it. Like I can't be that comfortable. But I think, like and I'm definitely not there anymore. I'm so glad that this is like one of the things that's fallen away as time has gone by. But like, I think that's one of those things that like, you train yourself to like hear the rotation of your cell door and things like that
Right.
because you can't be too comfortable. You know what I mean? And like, so like that was just how it was at that time. But now, yeah, I mean, sleeping in my car for a gig or um even if I have to stay at a shelter when I travel around, whatever, and I don't mind that. I don't mind going to those places, and because to me, like it reminds me all the time of like it's just right here, bro. You know what I mean? And like and it helps me not look on judgment on people that don't have some of the things I have. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it helps me in a lot of ways. Like it helps keep me grounded because I get to feeling myself a lot, and a lot of people know that I got issues when it comes to that. So I don't mind getting down in the dirt sometimes too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Now that you've been out of prison doing comedy for a while, is there somebody that you did time with that you think would have made a good comedian if they
oh,
had
definitely.
you know, you want I'm just saying that you don't have to give them a shout out right now because they may go, you know,
Right.
I don't
Well, I mean, a prison breeds that kind of thing though, because I mean, especially like it's a roast fest for sure.
know.
I mean, that's definitely one thing about prison I mean, there's always somebody busting your balls about something. You know what I mean? So like, and the other thing about it is it'll really sharpen you too if you want. And like that was one of my favorite uh flexes is that
Hmm.
nobody wanted to have a war of words with me. You know what I mean? Like that was because that was fun because I'll win. You know, like yeah, those were good times. I remember that.
So who were your comedy influences? Okay,
Uh,
first of all, everybody who does this show feels obligated to mention to say me. You don't have to say me. I'm just telling you. Even everybody says me. You don't have to say me.
well, I
I
mean,
mean,
I've
I
only
had.
recently
I'm
met
just.
you, so I mean,
I had to stop Tommy Chong from saying it was me. All of those.
right, right,
They all want to say me, and I had to stop them because I. It just after a while it doesn't sound sincere. So you can pick somebody else other than me as an influence. I'm just saying.
right. Uh, well, so I say this to be honest, and even though it burns me, but
Tom
I do
Segura.
remember, we had rented the Bill Cosby himself
Uh huh.
when I was little, and I remember like practicing in the mirror to be able to talk like he talked in the dentist bit
Oh
during that where
yeah.
that
I'm just
that
my favor. My favor.
like and like
My favor. Yeah.
yeah and like
We all did that. Yeah. Father.
yeah um
Smoke.
and
Smoke.
and I have
No,
to
yeah.
say that like I don't think that that's something that every like 10 or 12-year-old is doing. Like I don't think most of them are going to the mirror and trying to practice that shit. But I definitely was. I definitely remember doing that. Um uh, I like I like a lot of George Carlin. George Carlin is one of my favorites. And then Chris Rock was a huge one for me, and Jamie Foxx is another one. Um, and just like in general, like do you remember the show In Living Color that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Wayans
Yeah.
brothers used to do?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I used to get in trouble all the fucking time for staying up and watching that fucking show. My dad fucking hated it when I would fucking stay up and watch that shit. But so of course Jim Carrey was like a fucking hero to me. Like, matter of fact, I remember I used to do the Ace Ventura walk to make my sister get away from me. like like if my sister had been told to like watch me or whatever, she would usually be like very hovering, especially as I got older into my 12, 13. I started being more mischievous, getting into shit. So my parents would tell her like, hey, like really keep an eye on him. But I knew that if I walked like Ace Ventura, it would embarrass her, and she would just bolt the other direction from me. And as soon as she would do that, I would dip out and go hide and shuck and jive and be free of my sister, and then go and gallivant around. And then she would get in trouble. Like even though like I would go and just do all sorts of ridiculous shit and get in trouble for doing whatever, but then she would be the one who would get in trouble for not watching me. Well, he wouldn't have done all that stuff if you were watching him, is what they would say. And like, it really created this issue between my sister and I.
Now, I'm going to pop in the second of the three.
Oh, great.
Okay, we're for those of you who are just tuning in, this is at the Full Circle Book Co-op in Sioux
Falls, South Dakota.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And for those of you who don't know where Sioux Falls, South Dakota is, that's right.
I didn't graduate high school either. That didn't happen for me. What I did do is I did tell the principal that he was melting into the floor. That happened. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the deal is I don't think it would have mattered so much if it was just me that was high on acid, but there were a lot of other kids that were high on acid too. Apparently that was my fault somehow. And I told him, I was like, Mr. Nolan, I don't know what you're talking about. I was just selling pieces of paper, man. I just, yeah, which was true, because see, there was 400 students in my high school, and I only had 100 hits of acid. So if you caught me after lunch, you did just get paper. Yeah, that's right. And that's why I got expelled and not arrested. And that's winning in my book. I don't get it. Yeah. And I've been divorced. I've been divorced a couple different times. I gotta say this though. No matter how bad my second marriage was, still not as bad as my first. I did what I think any smart drug addict would do. I married my connection. We'll just go ahead and get this stuff for free. But it was weird. It was weird. Living in that neighborhood, we had money all the time, but never to pay the bills. Drug dealers, they don't pay bills. That's not what they do. What we did do is we stole our cable from the neighbor. And this is back in the 90s, so we had to get the fork out and get it in there just right. And then you don't get really great reception, so you got to get like a hanger, put some foil on it. And the more foil you have, the better reception you would get with your stolen cable. And me, I'm super artistic and creative. So I made this spider web of foil all around the living room. Man, that shit was amazing. I was getting HBO. Yeah. But then, because all these crackheads were coming around bit by bit, all the foil started disappearing off the wall. After a while, I couldn't even get local channels anymore. Damn it, guys, quit smoking my HBO! Shoot.
The one thing that we, for some reason, we never mentioned or discussed the camera angle.
Oh, right. And it had to be my friend because I was already on stage. So I had it set up, and then my friend turned it as I went up there, I guess.
But yeah, I don't know if he was turning it because everybody's doing like the 16:9, but I don't know why it didn't change. I don't know why the image, because usually the image changes.
Well, I probably didn't have auto rotate on because I'm a real stickler about turning it on and off for when I need it and when I don't, because I hate it when I don't need it and it happens. It annoys the shit out of me. So I'm incessantly turning it on and off. So I probably didn't have it on, is my guess.
And he obviously wasn't watching the thing. Because if he was watching, he'd have gone like, oh shit, okay.
Right. Yeah.
And he would have only gotten like 5 or 10 seconds of
There was a lot of crickets in that segment there. It felt really rushed though. I felt like I was really rushing it. Like I can tell by the meter of it that it's definitely coming out faster than it should. I'm way more slowed down and relaxed than that today for sure.
Well, that's why in the beginning of this thing, we say where we look at the work of seasoned comedians before
Yeah.
they were seasoned.
Yeah,
You
no, it's
know,
interesting. No, I like it's interesting to watch for sure because it's
yeah.
just like it really tells a story, bro.
And I commend you because there are a lot of people who won't do the show because the premise is we look at some of the old stuff that was not good, so we can talk about that and how you learn from it.
Right.
That's
Well,
the whole idea.
that's
Yeah,
why I'm like,
and they won't do it. There's a lot of people who won't do it. They say, I can't look at it. I can't look. I can't look
I
at it.
mean, it is a little gut wraching, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you just have to know who you are today and just be like, oh God. And but because when you first said something to me about it, and then I watched a few of my older ones, and I was too. I was just like, God, how did I have anybody telling me that I was good at this? Who was telling me that I was good? Like, like these are
Well,
bad.
I just because if we do our job right, we make it look very easy, and
Right,
people walk away thinking, I can do that.
right.
You know,
Yeah, it's not
as a matter of
nearly
fact,
as easy as it looks.
I remember there was one set I did in the very beginning. I I started immediately. I was trying to work on a 90-minute set. I started writing a 90-minute set after I was doing 2 weeks of comedy because honestly, I thought that I was because I didn't have any comic experience. I didn't
Right.
have my only reference of comedy was Christopher Titus. You know, I'd met
Oh,
him
okay. I know
and
Christopher
I
Titus.
talked,
Yeah.
and he did 90-minute shows. And so I thought that's what you did when you were a comedian. You do a 90-minute show. So I started writing a 90-minute show. But the show I was writing, I didn't want people to see it before I did it.
Right.
But I wanted to go on stage and get better. So I
Right.
was taking news stories and telling the news stories and making them funny because I didn't
Right.
want to put out my actual material yet.
Right.
So so as I do this one show. I do a 7-minute bit, and it's about this guy named Rupert Darwin out of in Florida, something Florida. Rupert Darwin, and he was arrested for sexually molesting an alligator. That's the story, and I make it funny. Now, when I'm done, this lady is talking to me afterwards, and she goes, that was a really funny story you made up. I said, no, I didn't make the story up. That actually happened. And she goes, oh, then you're not as funny as I thought. I said, no. I said, no. I said, if I gave you the newspaper story, you'd be grossed out about this guy kidnapping an alligator and fucking it. I said, what I did was I took the story and I made it funny for you so that you could laugh at the despicable thing the guy did.
Right.
And so she goes, I didn't think of it that way. She says, I just
Right.
thought maybe you were being, that you were just being lazy. And so once I told her so this is what I'm doing. I broke down the real story. I told her the actual story, and she just heard my version of it, and then she actually became a fan of mine, and she actually started bringing people to my shows.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so but it went from, oh, then you're not that funny. Then you're not as funny as I thought. But once I explained to her how the sausage is made, and it's weird because, like I said, I was so new at comedy that I felt like I had to explain to this lady, no, really, I am funny, and this is why I'm funny. See how funny I am?
Right.
Look, let me show you. Let me break down my funny. Here we go. I
Right.
did. So, and she became a fan. And she used to bring her family and friends, and I mean, she brought 14. I mean, outside of my cousin George, she used to bring the most people to my shows.
Very cool.
No, so I brought that up for some reason. We was talking about anyway, if we do what we do right, it makes it look too easy. And so people don't realize that we used to suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the purpose of this, is to show them that, yeah, we make it look easy, but we started off sucking just like you did or do
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
hang in there, just practice and you'll get better, hopefully. There's no guarantee you'll get better, but it's possible. We did.
Right.
Hi, I'm GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist and host of Done Way Past Funny. Thank you for watching our continued interview with William Conway. And please come back to watch more of our interview with William Conway. And when you come back to join us, bring a friend.